I'm just tuning in to hear some Russian music there. And that means that it's time for some more John Duggan from Russia. Come on in, JD.
Jer and Owen, how you doing?
Look at you in your England jersey.
No, it's my Tottenham jersey. There's a huge difference between Tottenham and England. Although I'd be kind of wary now walking around. Actually, just thought about that. Yeah, maybe that might be the best idea. But yeah, I've got the Christ the Saviour Cathedral behind me. This is today's history lesson, which was only reconstructed after communism collapsed. So it's only been open since 2000. So it's been here since the 19th century, the site.
Right.
The communists demolished it, Stalin, and then it was turned into the biggest open-air swimming pool in Moscow until communism collapsed and they reconstructed it back in about 2000. Boris Yeltsin, when he sadly passed away, was lying in state here behind me. So that was 2007. So that's today's history lesson, guys, on Off the Ball.
I dare say you don't get great wear out of an open-air swimming pool in Moscow all year round, John.
Summertime is hot.
But all year round, like, I mean, it's not too far away from doing it in Ireland. Like, an open-air swimming pool in Ireland wouldn't be a very sensible idea, would it?
I can tell you the weather here, guys, is absolutely fantastic, scorching the last few days. So I think, yeah, it's very much 6 months of hell and 6 months of good weather. And
sorry to put you on the spot, but when did they demolish it? Did they like raise it to the ground, or were there kind of walls left? Or
raised? It was raised.
Right, so that's a brand new building.
Yeah, brand new building, but it looks about 200 years old, which is pretty good.
And so was that built to the original plans? Like, I'm sorry, I mean, obviously we're here to talk football, and I'm like, well, it's pretty interesting.
I'm not too sure of the intricacies of the architecture and the quantities of rain around it, but yeah, no, that's all I know.
Tell me, what was so? My experience of World Cups is that, and major tournaments, is that when a game is on, everybody's watching that game. Was everybody in Moscow watching the England game, the Belgium games yesterday, or is it less taken over the entire country just yet?
Well, I didn't. What I did is I went to the Irish bar Katie's and watched both of them. For the first time yesterday, Red Square was open. For whatever reason, it wasn't open last week. I think they had Russia Day and a lot of stuff going on. So they have this massive construction in Red Square. So what I'll probably do is during the week, I'll go up there. But I'd say they're showing all the games there on a big screen. So they've got their certain fan fest. There's a fan fest for around 35,000 people down near the Luzhniki Stadium, and there was one in Red Square. And what I think, even though I didn't see yesterday, is that they're showing all the games there, and that's the congregation point for the locals and for the fans that don't have tickets.
Do you get the sense that everybody's chatting about what's going on, like just kind of wandering around? That's like that the World Cup has gripped the normal Muscovites? Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, I think it has. Now, Thursday helped, obviously. St. Petersburg tonight, where they're playing Egypt, will be a sellout. Vladimir Putin will not be there. I think he's on official business. But yeah, I definitely get the sense that from the reactions of the people on the metro to the fans of other countries, I get the sense that there's an interest and probably a degree of curiosity about this carnival, about this great show.
What was the reaction to the Tunisia equaliser in Moscow last night? Were the locals ravenous in their celebratory ways to see England suffer?
Well, you see, the locals in the bar I was in were mainly foreign, so there was a degree of shock from the English-speaking people that were watching the game. So it's classic England, isn't it? It was a BBC coverage, and as I'm wearing my Tottenham jersey and my 32-year passion for the club, and I want to see Harry Kane do well, I want to see Dele Alli do well, I want to see Eric Dyer do well, I want to see Davinson Sanchez do well for Colombia today against Japan. But the coverage would just give you a headache. This, imagine when we won the World Cup and all this kind of stuff and extraordinary performances and all this kind of stuff. Will you just relax? Can you just leave it? Let us enjoy getting behind England as close neighbours and stop with this athletic style coverage of their national team. They just can't help themselves.
It's a good point, actually, because if you think about it as a football team, if you think about it as kind of a group of individuals, and particularly with the cult of the manager and with Harry Kane, it is a team that you can very much get behind until you start being kind of force-fed the Kool-Aid that the BBC are serving up.
Well, why wouldn't you get behind them? If you're a Liverpool fan in Ireland, and there's more Liverpool fans, I think, than any other club in Ireland, you're mad about Jordan Henderson every week. Why wouldn't you get behind Jordan Henderson? Why wouldn't you get behind Harry Kane? I'm delighted for Harry Kane. Now, of course, we have that rivalry with England as Irish Republic of Ireland fans. That there is that national rivalry which will supersede that. But I suppose my point is that I wouldn't have any negativity towards England. I hope they do well, but I just don't. The coverage just is not in line with the reality of where they are in world football.
I thought mostly the coverage was okay. For a few things really annoyed me, and I've spoken about this. Martin Keown talking about Tunisia, like all the lesser nations in the World Cup, are going to start realising what the opportunity that presents themselves. Like, shut up, Martin Keown, with your lesser nations bullshit. But they just scored a last minute winner in the group game against tricky African opponents who came to thwart them and who almost managed to pull it off. They were denied a stonewall penalty when your man Harry Kane was manhandled to the ground
twice.
The penalty that Tunisia got, I mean, you can definitely make a case for it, but you can also make a case that they never get given generally. And it took them a little while before they actually went, I'm pretty excited about this. And why shouldn't Harry Kane be thinking about the Golden Boot? He's a professional footballer who's dreamed all his life of being the top scorer in the World Cup.
Well, he's got 15 goals in 25 games now, and Harry Kane thrives, like all strikers do, whatever they say publicly, on confidence and momentum, just as much as Lukaku will now after his brace yesterday. And I know where the lead singer of the Queens of the Stone Age ended up. He ended up playing for Tunisia. I was not really happy to see that penalty being given. I thought that was a bit sly, the way he went down, or hardly being touched. But Kyle Walker, that could just show that Kyle Walker was not in the right position. Harry Maguire at times gave away possession, and there were worries for England down the line with the wastefulness that they showed in front of goal, even though as attacking and as zippy as they were early on. And then at the end of the game, that Raheem Sterling, once again, disappointed. I think he's got 21 games now outscoring for England with 24 shots within that period. But what would help Gareth Southgate's mood, I think, this morning is the substitutes. Rashford and Ruben Loftus-Cheek really added a lot of fire and zip to the team when they were flagging a bit late on, and I think that's a good thing for them. Henderson played well in midfield, Trippier crossed the ball well. Yeah. But do they have the talent to get out of the group? And we'll just have to wait and see what happens after that.
But that's it, right? So this is it. Like, when you think about where England have come from, they came from being knocked out by Iceland the last time. Then they also had Big Sam as their manager for a little while, and now all of a sudden the team was playing pretty good football. It had the fewest amount of caps of any international side that they'd ever fielded in a tournament game, and it's young, progressive, forward-looking, and it's a team that everybody can get behind in England. And I think that's really all you want. Like, they're not realistic contenders. I think everybody has accepted that from the low base that they're coming from. If they get out of the group stages, I don't think any opponent is actually going to fear them, but I don't think anybody actively seeks them out to play them the way they would have done in previous tournaments.
No, I'd agree with that. And I think the Colombia, Poland, Senegal, Japan group is not the strongest group. So whoever they face out of that, they'd fancy their chances of getting to the quarterfinals. And then it's like getting to the All-Ireland final in Gaelic games. Once you get to the final, you never know what can happen on the day. You can go to penalties. You just don't know. Teams can underperform. So I'd agree with you. I think they're a team for the future. They're a team for Qatar. They've had a success at under 17 and under 20 level. And we see with Argentina over the last while that success at underage level does matter. And Argentina have been starved of success at underage level. I think with England's really exciting players like Loftus-Cheek and Rashford coming on, they're just still lacking that little bit of dominance, a bit of quality. But yeah, look, if it wasn't for the over-the-top coverage, I'd be probably wearing an England shirt today, lads, rather than a Tottenham shirt.
Seamus wants to know, does John have Prince Harry on the back of his Spurs jersey?
No, this is a kind of an older Tottenham jersey. I've never been one for the initials on the back. I got a Rafael van der Vaart one in Ajax, one away jersey years ago, and the only reason I got it was because it had the letters are so long, and it cost. I think you get paid. You charge per letter, and then he ended up playing for Spurs. But no, I'm not one of these people who changes the jersey every year and has different names and different whatever on the back.
What about the former Spurs man Kyle Walker, John? I mean, he's been much talked about in the context of this back three that Gareth Southgate is playing, and obviously there is a tangible thing to talk about now in relation to last night where you could say that Kyle Walker doesn't fit in on the right of a back three.
Well, Guardiola was saying it was a good thing before the tournament started, that other defenders have converted themselves, but Kyle Walker, I always remember as a Spurs fan, could throw in brain freezes He's great pace, great technique, but could throw in brain freezes in games. And I think it wasn't a brain freeze. I think he was a bit unlucky in that I thought it was playing to the edge of the spirit of the game in terms of Ben Yusuf's actions. But he was on the position, he was on the wrong side, and he raised his arm, and you just don't do that in the box, whatever the intent or whatever. So, yeah, it would worry. I just think, like, in terms of their shape, that three doesn't look. It looks like a bit of a three-wheel car, lads.
I'm not sure. I think that Walker got on a lot of ball early on, and look, hopefully the brain freeze in terms of the tournament is out of the way with the elbow last night. So look, we'll see. What are you expecting from Russia today? Obviously, because we're going to see, hopefully, Mohamed Salah start a game in the World Cup for the very first time. Russia probably aren't as good as they showed us in the opening game. I think
No, they're not.
Not going out on a limb and saying that one. So, what do you think is going to happen?
I think Russia will win. I just think almost Egypt took a gamble with the Salah situation against Uruguay, hoping that they'd defend well and eke out a goalless draw. We said that at World Cup Daily before the match, and it didn't happen. They were unlucky. Cooper said before the game that he was fit. He wasn't. It would just concern me that he has to play. He just has to play. I mean, I don't think they cannot play him. But I think Russia, I would agree, are an ordinary team. The games I saw subsequently to the Russia-Saudi Arabia game, there was just absolutely no comparison. But Russia have their tails up now. They're almost it was a home game, fanatical home support. Cheryshev will probably come in for Zagoyev, who is injured. I just think maybe momentum might swing at Russia's way. I mean, Egypt have never won a World Cup match. I think Egypt are the kind of team that will win matches by the bare minimum. And I can just see the likes of Golovin full of confidence now, maybe turning it Russia's way. But they are an ordinary team. Egypt are a pretty ordinary team, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw.
Yeah, it's also one of those situations where they test Salah's shoulder very early on. But
it's like the Gaelic Games way, Jerry. Remember that you strap up the wrong shoulder. Now in professional football, it's probably they're a bit more advanced than that. But remember, like, it was a Shawnee McMahon for Clare. I think he did his collarbone in 1995, and they strapped up the other shoulder, and he got a test in the Munster final. But it was the good shoulder.
It was like, I mean, it wasn't like the game had been televised the week before. You saw him. He was hovering around there in the corner forward position with one arm. Like, why is Sonny McMahon playing corner forward? But anyway, so look, what else? What are your plans now for the next 24, 48 hours? Where are you headed to?
Well, I'm going to Poland, Senegal. I think Owen called it the Hipsters match, or the Hipsters group. They never played each other ever in international football, and I'm really interested in Senegal, I have to say. They got some top players: Koulibaly, the Napoli defender, of course Sadio Mane for Liverpool. Everybody knows hasn't been as prolific at international level as he has been with his club, but as we all know, club footballers are better in terms of the star power of their teams. But they have Idrissa Gueye of Everton, Kouyaté of West Ham, and they're a pacey, physical team. Aliou Cisse, he was their captain 16 years ago when they reached the quarterfinals, is back managing them now. I think they're an unknown quantity that could surprise a few people. That's very interesting, their match against Poland. Poland have had a lot of injuries. They're an aging team. A lot of their players haven't been playing for their clubs, and a lot of pressure on Lewandowski. So that's an interesting match. Colombia, Japan. I'd expect Colombia to win that, with Japan changing their coach just months before the finals. James might not play. He's got a muscle problem. And then we have what I'm going to do tonight, lads, is I'm going to find a Russian boozer rather than an Irish one and watch the match with the locals. And then tomorrow it's Portugal, Morocco, and then it's to get one of those overnight trains to Nizhny Novgorod to follow Argentina and England for the rest of the week.
Right, Argentina and England, that both twin diverging narratives at the moment. Well, stay safe in that overnight train and in that Russian boozer. Before we let you go, though, because a little bit later on we're going to play your video with the interview that you've done in the only GAA club in Russia. Maybe talk to us a little bit about that before we get into it later.
Yes, Ger. Aisling Kinsella is the secretary of Moscow Shamrocks, who are the only GAA club in this great country in terms of size. So they set it up a couple of years ago. Adam Moore is the chairman, and they've just done a great job, like all GAA clubs around the world that hook up with the diaspora. That it's difficult to come here, as Aisling explains. The language is extremely difficult. I even know getting around the metro is tough. And it's just it's a good community to meet people like I met people from Mayo the other day, and they had Mayo for Sam flag already. And yeah, it's just a great thing to see Irish people, and also people from other nationalities that have a link with the Irish community, going out on a Sunday morning and learning the basics of Gaelic games and Gaelic football. And I just think it's heartwarming to see. I've spoken to people before from Sweden, Philip O'Connor and Pork McGrath from Singapore, who've done great work in terms of spreading the Gaelic games message across to different cultures. And of course, they show the All Irelands over here, and it's not just about Ruislip and London. It's spreading further afield. So Aislinn's got a great story. She's from Carlow and she's leaving soon, but yeah, I think it's been very beneficial for her. And I'd advise anybody who's travelling abroad or working abroad to try and see if there's a GA club in your city, or maybe even to set one up, because these things can be done. Croke Park are very supportive behind these kind of things.
Yeah, I know Pat Daly always gets behind them as well. What do people do in Russia who are Irish? Like, what, apart from working in Irish bars, obviously, what else do they do?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I haven't spoken to enough of them. I haven't seen enough of them. So I think they just go about their business and try and integrate with the community. There's a Russian English. There's an English language radio station called Capital FM here, which I was on the other night, which does serve, the English speaking community here. But in terms of the, what they do, in terms of, linking up with the natives, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe any of our watchers from Moscow who are Irish could let us in on what it is that they're doing over there, and we'll be happy to give them a shout out. John, great stuff. Enjoy.
Thanks, guys.
Talk to you soon. That's John Duggan, our man in Moscow.
After today, 27% of the World Cup games will have been played. It's going so quickly.
It does go so quick, doesn't it?
Slipping by. It's just that, we haven't even seen some of the teams play. We've only seen them all play once.
Today's the last day, isn't it? Of not having seen people.
Exactly. After everything, we'll update our power rankings tomorrow on World Cup Daily, which I'm sure will be an anticipated moment for everybody around the country.
Yeah, the Japanese and Colombian fans will be desperate to find out where they are after today.
They could rocket right into the top 10. They weren't there at the start. Colombia lingering around there.
They need to hammer them by 6-0 to get in the top 10, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it's just a hipster's paradise, really, this Poland versus Senegal match, really, to be honest. Just
Cuadrado, Aguilar, Carlos Sanchez, James, Falcao,
that's Colombia, Japan,
Muriel.
Yeah. But Poland, Senegal is what I was referring to. But Falcao obviously playing in his first ever World Cup match, kind of a late entrant to the World Cup club. It's just a dream, that group. It's my favourite group by a mile, and I think the football is actually going to live up to it. Senegal to cause a shock. I presume the odds are kind of going in Poland's favour at the moment, given how they qualified. But Senegal to cause a shock there this evening would be something to look out for, I think.